Welcome back. You, Lin. And I am Tammy Nguyen Lee. We're going to have an intimate little conversation and feel free to come on closer. I feel like this is a classroom where you're all at the back. Feel free to come closer if you want. So I'm going to start us off by asking a few pointed questions, and I'm going to let you also have an engaging conversation at the very end. I'm going to have some giveaways. If you pay attention to what she says, you will get rewarded. So Lynn and I met just a few months ago. I had the honor of moderating, and I just told her, she had known this, I got to handpick which film our nonprofit presented at the Asian Film Festival of Dallas. And out of a handful of films that really struck me, the logline of this one was personally very resonating to me in my life. And as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, you hold many roles. And you said that you had started this film and it took 10 years. Why this film? Why did you decide to take this whole concept as your debut feature? Hard question.
No, I guess life just happens. Things happen. Before making Don't Cry Butterfly, I've made a series of short films about middle-aged women. I think I've taken a very special liking to the very passive-aggressive nature of northern Vietnamese women, and also the kind of silent sufferings that they, not only the women, but also the men, have to go through in the modern society in a family unit. And I guess after making 4 or 5 short films, the same topic, it's almost like, I don't know if you know this about filmmakers, but we tend to just keep making the same film over and over again until we find the answer of what it is that we want to really say. And I guess Don't Cry Butterfly is the result of that.
So one thing that impressed me very much was this idea of the mother and beauty and the social media and the things that we are inundated with to try to change ourselves for the love of another person. Talk about, like, how much did you research? And you said you had a funny story then about all the things that actually happen and what you whittled it down to in the film. Will you talk about, like, those social media influence that happen today in modern Vietnam and how you brought that into the film?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, like, full disclosure, I go on TikTok. A lot of people think that, like, filmmakers, you're supposed to read books and watch, like, classic films and be cinematic all the time, but I go on TikTok, and I think that's a very good way to watch people and just to observe how people think. And then there was a period, I don't know why, or some algorithm, and it just led me into this series of women, middle-aged women on TikTok, giving advice on how to keep the heart of their husbands and how to maintain, the flame of love in the middle age. And a lot of the advice that you can see in the film, it's actually inspired really what I put in the film, which is, a lot of them just film themselves, like doing all this kind of beauty, what do you call that?
Those regimens and
yeah. Like and buy nice clothes,
lightning.
Yes, and just taking videos of themselves and the husband being happily doing some gardening stuff. And I thought that's very sweet, actually. That's very sweet, but also hilarious at the same time. Not to make fun of them, but I feel that that generation, they really carry this kind of idea of how to be a woman and how to be a wife and how to really keep a happy image of a marriage together. And I don't see how they are talking about themselves and how they are feeling inside and how they feel as a woman, in a relationship. So that was what really helped me, write a lot of scenes in this film. And also the feng shui facial reading stuff. That's really hilarious because there are so many contradictions information on TikTok, which is part of, how social media is like, right? Even like just 2 days ago, I was watching all these videos like, the price for gold is going up in Vietnam, and you should buy today. And another clip say, it's gonna go down tomorrow, you should sell. It's all this kind of like contradicting information that are being thrown into people, and people like us, the young generation, we know how to filter out those kind of information, but like people in like my mom's generation, that's why a lot of scammers nowadays, they target the older women or older men because they know that that generation, you know, they will fall into that kind of category. Okay, I'm going off topic here, but like, so those are the things that really inspired how I make the character behave in this film, is because you know, she doesn't listen to what her instincts is telling her, or rather she doesn't have any time to talk to herself, to have an inner voice within herself, and she just lets, you know, the voices of other people outside of her decides what she needs to do in this situation. Yeah, and I think she's not the only one. I think there are a lot of people in the modern society, and they're also doing the same thing.
I love the social commentary of that. And one thing that I was really struck by, and I think having been to many different Vietnamese and Asian film festivals, is that this was such a genre-bending film. It was not a traditional Vietnamese film by any means that was just very poetic in, let's say, long scenes about food or long scenes about the rain falling. It was a lot, and there was the supernatural in there, the cultural in there. So can you talk about, and especially the special effects, and how the scene at the very end when she is literally drowning, there was when we talked over dinner about how you shot that, incredible. So can you talk about why you decided to incorporate this monster as a metaphor, and how that monster kind of took over at the end, and the very ending scene, which could have been erotic or another metaphorical thing too. Talk about that.
Okay, well, I'm thinking how to like consolidate the answer into a easy to digest kind of piece of information, because it's quite a lot. But basically, the whole metaphor in the film is very simple. It's actually very, very easy. For me, I thought that it's very simple, but apparently not. Well, it starts with this Vietnamese saying, you know, nhà dột từ nóc, the house will always leak from the ceiling. And in Vietnam, you know, the house, the structure of the house is a metaphor for the man. So the male figure in a family is, you know, it's a foundation, and it's the, how do I say, the core to hold up the family together. And then the women are the one who, you know, will bring the soul and to make it like a family. It's like đàn ông xây nhà, đàn bà xây tổ ấm. The man build a house and the woman, you know, make a home. So it starts with that idea, and I was just thinking of how to bring this idea visually into the film. And so it starts off, in my mind, was just a leak in the ceiling. It starts off very small, and then it just keeps growing bigger and bigger as the main character keeps trying to ignore the problem that she has at hand, and tries to not having a confrontation, not trying to, you know, have a conversation with her family members, and she just tries to do all this crazy stuff that other people tell us to do. And so the more you ignore it, the bigger it will grow, just as with a leak in your house. And then eventually it will manifest into that kind of creature that reveals itself during the intimate scene in the film. Why it reveals itself at that scene, for me, is because she is making a decision here. She's not pulling away. She wants to stay. And, you know, she lets, you know, the intimacy happens again. It's almost like she's allowing that monster to take place. And also, you know, the act of intimacy for me is also like an exchange of energy. So in this case, she is allowing that leak in the ceiling, that monster, that whatever the matter that is haunting her, to take away all her energy. Because that is the point where she signed the contract, right? She's like, hey, take me. Yeah, and then eventually, you know, when the daughter wants to go away, and then her way of dealing with it is also like just to go back to that feng shui master, who is obviously a con artist. And that is when she finally is being swallowed by the monster that she created. Yes, because, yeah, and if you don't, there's a saying like, if you don't deal with something, the universe will make it return in the worst form. And so that's when the mother is swallowed by the monster in the ceiling. And then when the daughter comes home, why the house is flooded? Because now that the soul has left the house, you know, the remaining house is nothing but an empty shell of what it used to be. And then, you know, all the water from the leak now it's free to flood all over because then there's nobody holding it back anymore. And so the scene where the daughter is drowned in that mess of a house and how it's falling apart is simply because the mother is gone, and the daughter is simply dealing with the aftermath of her parents' deteriorated marriage. Yeah, since the parents don't want to deal with it, and the child
generational trauma.
Yeah, child. It's just a visual interpretation of really what happens when you have to live in a broken family. For me, yeah.
So beautifully done. How many of you got really skeeved out by that rice scene? Like, I cannot eat rice the same way. Can you? What inspired that rice scene?
It's a true story.
Oh my God!
I was in high school. Sorry, I was not in high school. I was in university. I was in second year. Admittedly, I ate a little bit too much chicken rice when I was in Singapore, and so I get a little bit of weight. And my classmates back then, they loved to goof around, and they were like, "Ling, you are gaining weight. You know that your boyfriend is very handsome. You should find a way to keep him. And I want to teach you this Malaysian spell." Literally, they told me that story, and my initial reaction was like the woman in the film is like, "Oh my God, I don't want to do that because it's too hot and my vagina is going to be boiled." And that conversation, I think it stays with me until today. And I thought that I should put it in some film somewhere. It just flow into this film by chance.
Literally, gross. So I want to take a chance to open it up to the audience, and I'll have some follow-up questions. But while we have time with her, would you like to ask Lynn a question? And Mr. Eric is going to pass the mic for us.
Hi, thank you so much for the show. Me and my son, we are filmmakers from Vietnam, but we have been here for more than 1 year, and we are studying film and television in OCC. So it's a great honor to see the film because I know Linh in Vietnam, and I have my filmmaking friends Hằng, Phạm Minh Hằng. She's in the now. Nhi and Hằng, but Hằng is like in the production, and Nhi is like an actor. We have some questions. Like the first one is in the first scene with the like the licking and a little bit moving on the ceiling. I feel like it's surreal, and it's this is a drama movie with like surreal aspect. But on the second scene, when I see like it's elaborated, and I think that it's a fantasy film. So how do you compromise that, and how do you like categorize that this is a drama film or this is a fantasy film?
Well, thank you for the question, and actually that has been and is still being a debate by a lot of people, because when I was trying to develop the script in some film labs, and there was one particular film lab, and they put the film in the same room with 4 other horror films. And it was so difficult for me because obviously the film is not a horror film. It has scary elements, but these elements are not, there to scare people. It's just a reflection of the character's inner monster. So then, I mean, even until now, a lot of people ask me like, why mix genre? Like, why can't you just make a straight drama without all these, they call it magical realism elements? And then my answer would just be, I don't know if I can make the film any other way, because this is who I am. I mean, I grew up watching a lot of crazy films from Hong Kong in the 80s, 70s. I loved Hong Kong films back then, and then when I was in film school, I continued watching a lot of Japanese film and Korean films that, let's say they were cult favorites, I just love those kind of imagery because I feel that they back then, even though I didn't understand them, they left a strong impression in me in terms of emotion. And then when I grew up a bit more and rewatched them and I realized what they were trying to say, and they just felt so good. And so I decided that, okay, this is going to be my cinematic language at this point in my life, that I really want to simply visualize what my characters are feeling inside, and not just having them, I don't know, for example, just staring blankly outside the windows for 3 minutes. Because that would not be my kind of language, that would be somebody else's kind of language. And so it was tough. I mean, to answer your question, it's really tough. I had to compromise quite a bit. Also, but I was lucky to have a crew and a producer who really believed in my voice, even though a lot of people question it, but they just say, okay, if you want to tell this story this way, let's just tell it and then see what happens. Yeah.
The style is completely unique. As I said, I've seen a lot of different Vietnamese films and I've never seen anything like this. Have you? Thank you for the question.
Hi, I just want to say first off, the movie, all the symbolism was really wonderful and how it got executed. I did have a question at the very end when the daughter and the son were on, I guess, the rooftop and they were discussing if she was going to go down to get an umbrella. But at some moment she felt something where it made her rush back up to the roof. What was she looking for? I was hoping some clarification.
Well, that scene was very special for me. A lot of people interpret it in a different way again. Some people say, oh, did he jump down? Something bad happened to him. I think for me, that sequence is really just, Ha, the daughter, she has to really let go of the fact that she has been trying to control her friends, right? She's like, yeah, you come with me. Even until the last moment when he really specifically tells her, you never ask me what I want. And she's like, oh. And then they lie down and she's continuing with her dream, right? Yeah, you think about it, you're gonna be, doing your jazz music, I'm gonna be doing ballet, which is impossible. I mean, we all know that these are rose-tinted dreams. These are not very possible, and it's very naive in a way. But I just, for me, Ha is a character that really mirrors her mother a lot, even though she detests the way that her mother solved the problem, right? But Ha, the way that Ha tries to control her friend or try to dictate what he needs to do is the same way that Thơm has always taken over the things in the house. Like, okay, let's say when we talk about Chuck, we need to talk about Thành, the husband. The husband never gets to say anything, not because he doesn't want to say anything, but because before he can even say something, the wife has, taken over and say something for him. He wants to try to help and he tries to, change the battery, but then she say, you are too slow, I'm doing it. And I think this is very, very common. Guilty as charged for many women in a family. And so, so then, yeah, the way that Ha has been treating Chuck is almost like, yeah, this is the plan. You follow like my plan with me, and we're all gonna be happy, and everything's gonna be fine. And so at this point in the film, for me, it's just a goodbye. It's a goodbye between the two friends. We don't. It doesn't matter whether Chuck jumps down or he doesn't. It's just the fact that he will disappear from her life. From now on, they are gonna go on a separate way. She's gonna have to live her life without her friend, no matter what. Yeah. So that's the significance of the film, the scene for me. Yeah.
Another question from the audience? Yes.
Okay, so you're dealing with a lot of concepts here. I would like to ask about the butterfly concept and how that sort of progressed over the development of the film, especially with the name and such. Like, how would the relation to butterflies have progressed in terms of its significance in the film? I mean, eventually becoming the name Don't Cry Butterfly.
Sure. Oh, well. I used to be very shy when talking about this because people would be like, you naughty.
Earmuffs for those guys over there.
It's okay. But yeah, in Vietnamese, we have certain words that we use to talk about genitals. So in English, it's the bird and the bee. In Vietnamese, it's the bird for men and the butterfly for the women. And so, but also at the same time in Vietnam, there are a lot of poems and songs about the butterflies being a free-spirited animal, being like the symbol for beauty, for freedom, and for women actually. It's been used as a symbol for women. So then, it's just me thinking about all these words about genitals, and how they are, something that haunts a lot of women, when they are pregnant. Simply put, in my generation, when I grew up, actually even now, whenever a woman is pregnant, this is the first question that comes up. It's always like, oh, is it going to be a boy or is it going to be a girl? Yeah, and if it's a girl, then there's always this slight disappointment. Last time it was a bigger disappointment. Nowadays, because we are more aware, it's slight disappointment, but still, like, it would be better if it's like, a boy. But anyways, so that was my original idea when I came up with the title, Don't Cry Butterfly. But then, of course, when you watch until the end and that rice scene with the water dripping down, then you will also make a connection to the Don't Cry Butterfly with the water and so I shall not go into more detail because there's a little boy here. Yeah, but that's a cheeky hidden meaning inside. Yeah.
Another question from the audience in the back.
Hi, thank you. I really enjoying the movies, and it's a lot of symbolism that you brought into the movie, and the comparison when the scene where Tam was sitting in the open scene of the kitchen right next to her is very symbolism of the woman, how she is tied into the household and everything. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
I just want to ask is that how does the fish in the movie ties to the whole story, and how does that become the flow of the whole story?
Well, there's another saying in Vietnamese, it's chim lồng cá chậu, meaning the bird in the cage and the fish in a tank. It basically means like when you're trapped. And in the film, the fish tank is tied to the husband tank. And he always tries to take care of it, right? But as we can see, he fails, and then the fish keep dying. It's almost like similar to how he is. He just floats around the family. He doesn't really belong, and it's like he's inside there, and it feels like a free world. Maybe the fish who are inside the tank feel like they are swimming in a free river or something, but we know that they are inside the tank. And so it's similar to this family, where the members of this family, they are all inside a tank, and they can't really break free from it. And also because the fish tank is, I don't know, it's just the only thing that the husband has attached himself to in the house. He doesn't really belong to anywhere else. I mean, he doesn't belong to the kitchen. Even when they're in the bedroom or the living room, he always feels like he's an outsider. So I gave him something to give him some sense of belonging. But yeah, in the progression of the film, and then eventually when the film reaches the climax, and then the house is flooded and the fish escapes from the tank. But then it's still being trapped in the house that is flooded, so they're not free. And if you notice, actually it's a small detail, but like in her last moment, Hai was trying to, save some fish inside her little container. There was like little tiny fish swimming inside there, but they also like fall down. I mean, it just means that like, the child trying to keep everything together and trying to save as much as possible of what is left of her family, but then eventually she has to let go of everything. So it's a small details. I mean, I don't really put a lot of like metaphor into it. It happens to be there, and it happens to carry a certain like meaning for the characters. So it's just an additional thing. Yeah, but I would try not to look too deep into it. Yeah.
Okay. So one last question from the audience, I'm going to wrap it up. So who wants to have the last question? Yes, right in the middle, thank you.
Hello, thank you for a really beautiful film. I was thinking about the apartment complex and how it's only the women who can see the monster in the leaks, and how it was affecting every floor and not just our particular main character's floor. So my question is, I guess it is not just this single family's problem, it's a problem that is seen in this whole apartment complex, and a commentary on I guess Vietnamese society at large. Do you feel like there are other films or books or media that's discussed, I guess not necessarily specific to Vietnamese culture, or where we're seeing these issues, but any that you feel reflect not only women's tragedies, female pain, but also their reach for catharsis, or even scenes of fantasy and joy that you beautifully show in your film?
You mean like to recommend some films?
Yes, or yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to say that the idea of like originally the leak only happens in Tâm family, but then I wanted to spread it out to every other family in the apartment complex, because I felt that at one point, like you said, it's really a problem that exists everywhere, and it is a pain that, you know, not only the women but also the men carry quietly with them, and also the younger generation. So it's really something that the whole society have to be responsible for. And of course, like in this film, I feel like the main antagonist is not anyone. It's like, it's really, you know, the whole societal expectation that put on all these women and these men, that they really you know, carry themselves with all these roles that the society tells them to carry, and then it leads to all this, you know, distance and breakdown. But then they are still trapped because they know that they have to stay here just to maintain that kind of image. So then, if you want me to think of some films, that immediately I can't, but
Stay after, we'll think on this one.
yeah, I'm very bad when people ask me like, do you think of some films? And I'm like, oh my god, there's so many films, and if I just say one, I'll miss out others. Pardon my ADHD brain. But I would say the inspiration for that I got from Hong Sang-soo. Why? Because he made a short film, and then it's just about a love story of a couple. But then in the end of the film, the story takes place at a love motel. And then at the end of the film, it ended with a montage of all the love motels. And then at that moment, when I watched until that part, in my brain somehow it made a connection that, oh, so this is a story that we'll get to see every day in one of those rooms, in one of those motels. And so that kind of inspired me to really think like in a bigger scale, like, okay, this is a story of one family, but also of every family in the society. Yeah.
I think we have time for just a quick wrap up, and I think the reason why we come to these film festivals, and thank you so much for all these amazing questions, for coming out on a Sunday morning when you could be sleeping in. We really appreciate you. We want to make sure that you attend. This is the last day of the Vietnamese Viet Film Festival. You can actually still watch our films online, vietfilmfest.org. And then we have a couple more films today with a closing that I think Eric can come and talk about as well. It's going to be a retrospective vintage film with do you want to talk about that in a second? And one last question for me that I want to ask her, so that you know, is what's up next for you? Real quick.
Real quick, I'm taking my master's degree in film production and creative writing. Why? Because I secretly want people to give me deadlines so I can keep writing my next films while getting a degree. So that's my secret plan that is now open.
Yeah.
So all the best, and hope you guys will get to see my new film soon.
Well, please give a round of applause for you. Don't cry, butterfly.
Thank you.